welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair. My name is Sue Raufer, and I am the Vice President of the congregation, the President-elect, and I bring you greetings from the President, Michael Mernon, who was unable to be here today. So, warm welcome to everybody. I particularly want to welcome, I'm using a cheat sheet because I don't want to forget anybody, but I know I will. First, of course, Judy's family, Rob Gordon, Mary, Phil, Ed, and Miriam. The Mayor of Montclair, Robert Jackson. A representative from the UUA, Andrea Lerner. And many clergy and religious leaders, Reverend Jack Kufari, Reverend Elizabeth Mora, Kevin Diamir, Reverend Carol Haig, Reverend Emily Bogus, Reverend Kimberly Johnson, Reverend Mary Thibault, Reverend Justin Osterman, and ministerial candidate Terry Cummings. I also want to welcome a special guest, our special guest who may have come from the farthest, Courtney and Chayton Allen. As we're gathered here together, you notice I didn't welcome anybody who's a member of this congregation. I did that on purpose because you're home. So no need to welcome you here. So as you notice, it's also not a retirement because we're not sure exactly what direction Judy's life will take, except possibly west. She's too vivacious and she's got too many things in her future for us to be thinking about retirement. Certainly, whatever it is, it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be a wonderful here on out. So, what we're here to do today is to reflect on the gift of ministry that Judy has given us, and certainly to thank her, and of course, to celebrate. So let's the celebration begin.
If you are a member of this congregation and you have been involved with religious education or small group ministry or leadership development or any other ministry that Judy has touched, you might have heard, you might know from your own experience that Reverend Judy Ann Tomlinson has a bit of a reputation around these parts. You may have heard about her or possibly fallen under her Svengali-like powers to draw you into another project here in this congregation. You are sure that you're too busy, sure that you have no time to add anything else to your plate. And then you have a conversation with Judy. And you are teaching a class, chaperoning a trip, sharing your gifts in a covenant group. But there's nothing tricky or manipulative or exploitative about Judy's magic. Judy's gift is that she draws you to the service that will answer your heart's call. It is a magic that comes from knowing each of us, seeing us clearly enough to understand our hearts in ways that we may not yet. This magic comes from knowing this community and its vision for the future. This magic flows outward because it's not held tightly, but cupped gently and offered in open hands, open to the workings of the universe that some call God. Each week here, we end our Time for All Ages, we used to, I think we still do, with the prayer, may your roots grow deep, may your branches spread far, may you find the world to be a wonderful place and leave it better for those who follow. And so this afternoon, let us invoke the spirit of this community. May we return again and again to the deep roots of this congregation and this faith. May we be reminded of the home that Judy's ministry has helped us to make here. May we be held aloft and supported by its branches. Inspired by this celebration of Judy's ministry, may we be encouraged to listen for our heart's call. And because magic is real in the world, and the secret, some of us might be mermaids. May we swim and float and sing as far as we might with grace and as loudly as we wish.
Part of the human experience is to look back on events that seem to be of no major significance at the time and reflect on how profoundly our lives were affected without our knowing it in the moment. That's a polite way of saying that when Reverend Tomlinson suggested in that mild, low-key way that is unique to her that perhaps I might enjoy teaching 8th grade OWL, that I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into, or where it would eventually lead. As I have moved along my own journey towards ordained ministry, I've thought about the many things that led to my answering that call. And I'm delighted to acknowledge today that one of the major influences I received was the encouragement and occasional gentle tugging from Reverend Judy Tomlinson. First with OWL, and then with mentoring seniors in our Coming of Age program, 1 year co-leading the Coming of Age program, and participating in the congregation's very first Harvest the Power program, Judy led me and encouraged me along the way, and she provided opportunities unconditionally and with love. When I first joined this congregation, I had a lot going on in my life, and frankly, I wasn't feeling so great about myself. Participating in the religious education program helped me to reclaim some of my self-respect. It gave back to me far than I had ever contributed. For that, and for the light that Reverend Judy so generously lit for me and others to follow, I will be forever grateful. In honor of the light that Judy has brought to this congregation and this community for so many years, I will now light the chalice that is the symbol of our living tradition. May this flame remind us that every one of us can bring the light of love to the world. May this flame symbolize the fact that every heart can burn bright with peace, harmony, wisdom, and truth. May the wisdom of the ages speak to us through this flame, stay with us in the years to come, for every one of us can be a blessing to this world. I hope I don't screw up the lighting of the candle. This time I'd like to ask everyone to join in the unison affirmation that is the hallmark of this church. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am charged with the honor and joyous responsibility of giving you the story of Judy. Reverend Judy Tomlinson was born in South Jersey, but when she was just 2 years old, her father's work with oil refineries began to move the family around the globe. As a child, Judy lived in Indonesia, the Philippines, California, and Panama. Graduating from Coco Solo High School in the Panama Canal Zone, she then matriculated to Wheaton College in Illinois. Mid-college career, Judy married and moved to Southern California, where she and her husband had a gardening business. Judy was an integral part of the volunteer corps in the Unitarian Church in Anaheim, California, as well as a committed participant in the anti-nuclear and freedom of information movements in Southern California. It was at the Orange County U that she became a Unitarian Universalist and an active religious educator. For 3 years, she was co-director of Bentonville Pines Unitarian Universalist Camp and Conference Center. She served the Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church from 1989 to 1992, and the UU Community Church of Santa Monica from 1992 to 2000 as the Director of Religious Education. Her preparation for the ministry began in the modified residency program at Medville Lombard Theological School. In 1996, she transferred to a school closer to home. Upon her graduation from Claremont School of Theology, Judy moved to Montclair and was called into ministry by our faith community as our first-time minister of religious education. Reverend Tomlinson has been a driving force in this congregation since she arrived in the fall of 2000. Or is driving force the correct terminology? Shall we say that she has been a gentle nudging force? No one can deny that Judy's energy is what makes her a force for good, a force for productivity and accomplishment. And we have been lucky enough to be on the ride with her. Many a time you have seen Judy coming with that look on her face. She is searching for a volunteer for some task, and you duck around a corner, move in the opposite direction to avoid her, only to be headed off at the pass, at the opposite end of the building. How does she move so quickly? With her gentle manner and her winning smile, the power sneaks up on you, and the next thing you know, you have agreed. But what is truly transformative is this. What she has asked you to do is work of substance and satisfaction. And you're glad that you've been called to the task. That is the magic of Judy Tomlinson. Judy's concentrated study of small group ministries during a sabbatical informed her proposal to expand her role with our congregation. We happily concurred and affirmed her as our associate minister on September 12th, 2010. The sheer number of congregational initiatives, caring ministries, and educational programs under Judy's guidance is daunting. But their consequence, in terms of our community outreach and tender mercies to our own, are at the very core of UUCM congregational life. As our associate minister, Judy implemented our Harvest the Power program, revitalized the covenant groups, serves on the membership committee, devotes her time to pastoral care, all while ministering to a vibrant religious education program. That RE program is our past, our present, and our future. It defines who we are and heralds our values into the larger community. Judy has in all ways demonstrated careful guardianship of our religious education program. Remarkably, during this same time, Judy has served the larger UU community through her leadership with Liberal Religious Educators Association and the local chapter of the UU Ministers Association, her mentoring of ministers and religious educators in training, and her engagement with the Montclair Clergy Association. Our own Dr. Justin Osterman has stated that working with Judy Tomlinson was one of the things that attracted him to UUCM as an interim minister. During her time with us, we were pleased to witness Judy's second marriage to marketing executive Rob Gordon. It has been a communion of joy. We were elated that Rob became a member of UUCM. In her rare free hours, Judy delights in time spent with her grandchildren, quiet reading, hiking and biking, and gardening. We wish her an abundance of these joys as she travels on. In a Gazette column, Judy once quoted the Reverend Gordon McKeeman. "Ministry is that quality of being in community that affirms human dignity, beckons forth hidden possibilities, invites us into deeper, more constant, reverent relationships, and carries forward our heritage of hope and liberation." Reverend Judy Tomlinson has shared such a ministry with us, moving us ever closer to the goal, the blessed community.
At the UU Montclair, during every Sunday service, we take up an offering, making space to give thanks for the blessings of abundance within our own lives, and return that blessing to this community, which we cherish, and the broader community for whom our work in this space matters so much. In doing, we support our own congregation as well as an organization consistent with its values. And while this is no ordinary Sunday service, but rather an exultant celebration, to my mind and to the committee's mind, it would not do to honor a woman who has given so much without an opportunity to give back on her behalf. So, as Judy has requested, the offering this afternoon will go to the Living Tradition Fund, which was established in 1988 by the General Assembly, to create opportunities for new ministers through scholarship, relief of educational debt, and other emergency funding, that the leaders of our future might be unburdened by the hardships of today. It will also go to Loretta, or the Liberal Religious Educators Association, founded in 1949, to encourage and support the professional standards and accomplishments of those who serve our congregations in religious education. And today, it spans 15 chapters across the United States and Canada. Loretta's values mirror the values that Judy has harvested within us: concern for professional, accessible, open, and creative spaces that are required for religious education. If you prefer to donate by check, it may be made out to UUCM with the byline Tomlinson. Please join us in the spirit of sharing, and may the ushers now come forward to receive your blessing.
I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection, it be my crime. In humility I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living 'neath the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, binding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me, band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living 'neath the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground that we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share, have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living 'neath the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side.
That was beautiful. Good afternoon. I'll begin with these words of appreciation from Kathy Segal, who is the president of the Liberal Religious Educators Association. Dear Judy, I send love and deep gratitude from my own heart and from the professional organization you have served so well for so many years, the Liberal Religious Educators Association, also known as LREDA. I am honored that my personal connection to you is strong and treasured. You have generously shared your inspirational ministry with countless colleagues as mentor, friend, teacher, and advocate. You collaborated on innovative faith development programming and served as a dedicated chaplain for many.
Judy, please know that as you leave New Jersey and your beloved congregational work, the Laredo Board and I look forward to your continued involvement as you greet this new chapter. With love and appreciation, Kathy Segal. So I will add my own sentiments to this, adding love and greeting from your colleagues in the Metro New York area. You have been a faithful partner in our work as religious educators and agents of change in our movement, whether attending monthly cluster meetings for fellowship and support, leading educational workshops, or being a listening ear to assist us with personal discernment. Your presence has been invaluable. We have known each other for over 20 years. Back when I was a baby DRE in Orlando, and she first came to my real conscious attention when she was serving as the registrar for the Laredo Fall Conference in the days before electronic anything. And she decided to move across the country at the same time. So we had together catch up with all that registration. And now you're moving back the other way. So as that part-time DRE in the mid-90s, I look to you and other pioneering ministers of religious education like Carol Haig as role models and guides of professionalism and compassion. And so on behalf of your religious education colleagues, we say congratulations on your career and the conclusion of your ministry here, and wish you many years of joy and love. I would also like to congratulate this congregation, Unitarian Church of Montclair, for having the good sense to call her. Yay, you. And in my role as a UUA staff person, and I want to also call out Pat Kahn, another UUA staff person with us today. So good to see you here. So I've been in relationship with this congregation for 14 years and have witnessed the many wonderful work and beautiful projects that Judy has done in her tenure here. I'm particularly fond of that membership brochure. I asked for like at least 4 times so I can share it with other congregations. So I also bring greetings from the Unitarian Universalist Association, its 3 presidents, its board and staff, and we pledge our continued support to this congregation as we walk forward together, and our love and gratitude and joy go with you, Judy.
So I'm speaking for myself and 3 religious educators from the past. So I'm going to start with Allison. So I guess I'm going to read it in first person. I'm not Allison, this is how she wrote it. I learned so much during my time working with Judy. She's truly one of a kind. Judy is the ultimate combination of strength and softness. I've seen her get people to commit to a teaching team that I never thought would, winning them over with her gentle personality, yet not taking no for an answer. Judy has a way of instilling confidence in the most reticent, building them up with her positivity. If it wasn't for my experience with Judy, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to go back to college. But I'm sure she'd be happy to hear that I graduated this May with my BFA in graphic design. Thank you, Judy, for touching my life in such a wonderful way. Best of luck to you in your next phase. And the next letter I'm reading is from Judith Amelia Stein Farrell. Dear Reverend Judy, you should know, in case you didn't, when I came to work with you, you intimidated me. That was not a bad thing, and I don't think that was your intention, but just resulted from how we were both interacting with the world at that time. Ultimately, it was wonderful. You set a rich example of what it looks like to be both humble and strong. I know the congregation has witnessed this over the years because of our work together. I strive to embody the clarity and planning that you modeled so well. Working with you laid the groundwork for my own progress. It took me some time to put it together, but you had the patience, forbearance that was for me, both frustrating and a gift. Not everyone has the luxury of being able to pin down where their important lessons clicked, but I do, and I'm glad you're a part of that. Finally, as I move forward because of you, I've also come to embrace the beauty and value of liturgy, theme, and bubbles, and the liturgy of bubbles. Bubbles bring joy wherever they go, and I hope you have much joy and bubbles in your adventures. In love, wishes, and prayers for wonderful adventures, Judith. So the next letter is from Daphne. I would like to say that Judy Tomlinson was one of the best bosses I've ever had. She's fair, accommodating, inclusive, but it's really hard to think of her as an employer or supervisor at all. She has that rare capacity to make everyone on her team feel as if they're working for the same goals, and that they have the same stake in the outcome as she did. She did not direct, she listened. She did not demand, instead she encouraged. Leadership from below, in a sense, and of course the job always got done. Hail and farewell, Judy. Hope you get to do all the things you've dreamed of. And finally, me. What can I say that hasn't been said already? Working with Judy has really been an honor and a privilege. Judy has such a calming presence. She always listens intently and has a thoughtful response. In this year and a half, Judy has continuously inspired me. She's helped me find a home in this faith and supports me on my RE career path. She has taught me so much about fostering compassion, consideration, and empowering others in my work, and I will forever be asking myself, what would Judy do? Farewell and thank you. I will always cherish the time we had working together, and I'll carry all that you have taught me with me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kai, and I'm from Senior Youth. And myself, along with Harrison, took lead with a special video presentation to Judy, and we spoke to some of the people who have been touched by her presence, and we asked them to speak and just say a few things. So thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you to Harrison's mom and Michael for also letting me film everyone, and of course, thank you, Judy.
And unfortunately, our projector has stopped working. So we don't have the video for you just now. Hopefully, if it comes back on, we'll try and stick it in later in the service. If not, then we'll bring the computer down to coffee hour and we'll play it on a loop down there. And then afterward, I assume we can email it to everybody too. So sorry about that.
Well, now you're stuck with me. So my name is Shannon Gattens. I am the RE committee chair, and I've been the committee chair just this year, and thank goodness Judy changed her plans, and she extended a year because it really has helped me, and it's been invaluable. So, Sheryl Sandberg, the author of the book Lean In, said, "Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence, and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence." I think that fits this moment perfectly. I've been on the RE committee for 7 years, watching Judy make her impact, not only on the children of the congregation, but on the whole congregation, me included. She has been a mentor, teacher, and a friend to me, and I'm sure most of you can say the same. She is the yin to my yang, the grounding to my fancy, and one of my biggest supporters. Some of the RE committee chairs who have worked with Judy, could you come and stand? I emailed them and asked them if they could share a few words of what Judy meant to them or what they they all sent. I know. Somehow you missed the email. What they said was that she's fiercely dedicated, caring, upbeat, persistent, with a quiet but wickedly funny sense of humor. Do you want to say something? Spontaneity with
Hello. So my name's Lauren Carlton, and when I joined the congregation, I was immediately co-opted into a teaching position. Judy was not here then, but eventually, as a member of the RE committee, I was asked to serve as its leader. And one of the things that impressed me was Judy's ability to build consensus among a sometimes not completely agreeing group of people. And coming from a different world where there was a top-down management style, I was surprised that one day, out of maybe 11 of us, we had one dissenter, and I thought, okay, we're done. 10-1, that we're gonna make a decision. No, that's not how Judy does things. So we all learned to build consensus, and we led, again, by Judy's amazing presence. I was so happy to learn from her a different way of leading than I had learned in my workplace, and that was her gift to me.
just a few words.
Okay, sure.
No, that's okay.
Well, I was right after Terry and right before Peter. My mind does that when I'm nervous.
That guy over there.
Anyway, what I remember many things, but I do remember how it amazed me, having been on many committees in my life, outside and inside here, that we would come up with an idea, and it was a game-changing idea. It was like changing everything overnight. And, the kind of thing that might be debated and thought about for a couple of years. And with Judy's encouragement, it just happened. I could name a million things, but I bet you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'll never forget. And Judy really empowered me to be a leader in a way that kept me on a trajectory through lots of leadership positions here. And it was really Judy.
So I'm Avron Stoloff. I came after Peter and before Shannon. And like many people in the U, I we had one of those small group meetings for feedback, a forum on things shortly after I was at the U. And so I was participating, and I could sense that there was something that needed to be changed. So I asked if I could speak about it. And of course, then this got word to Judy, and Judy brought me to a board meeting, and then the next thing I knew, I was on the RE committee. So that's kind of how it works a lot of times. But that's one of the things I think I'm gonna miss most is Judy's ability to bring in people to be involved in RE. Whenever we needed someone and we were looking around going, oh, who else could we ask? We'd all go, we'll get Judy to ask. And it would, invariably it would work, because when Judy calls you, it's sort of like, you see, of course now you see the number and you go, ooh, I know I'm gonna need to be asked to do something. So, but it's always for a great cause, and so I'm gonna miss that the most, I think, for Judy.
Terry Doemling. I will just reveal that my words were upbeat and persistent.
I just wanted to thank Judy on behalf of the children who've come through this congregation. My daughter, who's almost 20, was 6 at the time, and discussing with her friend in the back seat of the car about UU and kind of struggling, at 6, she said, turned to her and said, it's really just a place where we come, where we learn how to love one another. So I think Judy's really shared that message with our children, and we all know that. So.
Well, thank you. That was an unexpected treat from each of the RE committee chairs. But this is what it's for, right? So I think that sums it up. I will miss you, Judy. We will all miss you.
in these walls, we have many rooms, each with a rich history and many stories to tell. We have the sanctuary, we have the narthex, we have the Alliance Room, Ware's Room, Mortensen Room, Melcher Library, Fletcher Hall. We have the Pearls Room, and we have the Sub-Pearls Room. Wait a minute. The Sub-Pearls Room? Do we really need the Pearls Room and the Sub-Pearls Room? Do you have any idea what's gone on in that room downstairs? It houses piano lessons. It has housed toddlers in motion classes. The choir has rehearsed down there on many a Christmas Eve. For years, it was the home of the 8th grade Our Whole Lives Human Faith and Sexuality Religious Education class. For years, it's been the home of coming of age, where our 9th graders have pondered the hard questions about their beliefs. If walls could talk. Music, children, play, learning, growing, laughing, and crying have all gone on in abundance in that room down there. Sub-Pearls hardly does it justice. It has Judy written all over it. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and the members of the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair, it is with great excitement and deep humility that I have the privilege of announcing the renaming of the Sub-Pearls Room to the Tomlinson Room. In the fall, when the leaves start to turn gold and crimson and burnt orange, when extraordinary leaders have gone and new ones have come to stand on your shoulders, we will place a plaque by the door as a symbol of the legacy you have left for all of the children and families of this congregation.
I'm Rachel and I'm 11 years old.
Hi Judy, it's Dawn Horman.
Judy, I've been a member of this congregation, I think even before you were.
Hi, I'm Kira.
Judy was one of the most amazing people I've ever met.
Judy was really nice to me, and I would like to thank her for that.
I hope you know how much you've meant to me and my whole family.
You've always been here for me and for all senior youth.
We like the stories you told in Children's Chapel.
Anytime I talked to Judy, she was just really open and nice, and I loved having conversations with her.
Especially being such a supportive member to my family, my grandmother Rose, who adored you, and to my children. I just want to thank you, and you'll be greatly missed.
I'd like to thank Judy for being there for when my great-grandma died, when my dog passed away, when I was changing schools, and just being there my whole entire life.
I'm just so grateful that we've had the chance to know you all these years, that you've been a part of my family's lives.
I've always known that if I had to talk to somebody, you were always there.
just want to thank you for all of the years of service that you provided to the UU.
You've been an integral part of my kids' lives. I mean, Jacob's been coming here since he was little. You were here to welcome my daughter.
For committing yourself to our congregation for so many years.
Judy is one of the most special people I've ever met, and I'm really gonna miss her. I also know that if I ever needed to talk to her about something, she would be supportive and help me through it, which is great.
Thank you for everything you've given us and that you've given the congregation.
I just wish you the best in whatever you do, and I will never, ever, ever forget you.
I'm gonna miss you. Have a good life.
You are just the best, and we're gonna miss you. Bye.
I wish you very good luck in your retirement.
We wish you so much luck with everything you do.
Good luck in your retirement.
We're gonna miss you.
We love you, Judy.
Bye.
Now you can sit down again and listen to some more words. So it is a great honor to be asked to be here. Thank you, Judy, from both Carol and I. And hilariously, as we were walking in, somebody said to us, you know that Judy preached on the same topic that you have in the order of service, and we didn't know that, so let's hope it lines up. Or we'll just say something new. We hope that they don't contradict. But Judy has the distinction of being one of the last official settled ministers of religious education, and she has always seen her work as a full ministry. Now, I really want you to know that this is an important moment to note. When the UUA created tracks of ministry, there had always been parish, and then they added religious education and community ministry. They were lifting up ministries that had been considered outside of preaching and pastoral care. They were acknowledging and respecting that a person can hear a call for a wide range of ministries, and that all of them are valued. Today, as people enter seminary, they really are no longer asked to pick a track of ministry. The definition of ministry has now widened because of people like Judy. We now understand that when a person enters ministry, they could hear a call to a wide range of ministries over the course of their lifetime. And this is due, of course, to people like Judy. For this retirement service, or though we don't really know if it's a retirement, but for this moment, Judy has asked the two of us to offer a dialogue about the past and the future of religious education and family ministry. So we are offering our thoughts on the transient and the permanent in religious education and family ministry, a title that Theodore Parker, well, his was the transient and the permanent, a title that he coined, almost 200 years ago, 150 years ago, where we've come from and where we are headed. And so I'm going to ask Carol Haig some questions, and she's going to ask me some questions, and you can hear where we go. So Carol, what was your path into religious education?
Well, there was a path of service in my life that culminated as I approached the age of 50 in a call to ministry. Simply put, I had spent my working time as a social worker and as a volunteer engaged with children and families building community. This was what I knew, what I loved. Also, I didn't have enough to say to preach a sermon every Sunday. So, Emily, how did your upbringing inform your approach to religious education?
Quite simply, I want you to know that I was raised in a multi-generational congregation, meaning that there were very few silos in the community that I was raised in. And they understood kind of inherently
how to be a community with many different generations. It was a congregation who made youth ministry a priority. They loved me through my teenage years. That is something I never doubted about them. They loved me through my formative, awkward years. Not just me, but all of my friends. We had people coming from around the community that were friends of mine whose parents never went to church, but all of us went to youth group together. Some of them even came to Sunday school. We were in handbell choir. I mean, we were in things that we never thought we would show up, and that's because that community just opened their doors to us and said, come and be here. I want to tell you about two people because this community showed up for us in ways that were very meaningful. Their names were Don and Vivian Noblet. Now, Don and Vivian Noblet, I first met on the day that I was confirmed. So I went to confirmation class. I had no idea what confirmation class really meant, except that on that Sunday, I was going to stand in front of the congregation. My grandparents had come from Kentucky, and there was going to be cake and presents at the end of it. We went down into our fellowship hall. It was kind of this dark place, and there was Vivian and Don Noblet, who were elders in our congregation, and as a 13-year-old, they looked ancient to me. I'm pretty sure they were probably 42, the age I am now. But like really old and very scary. And they asked me if I believed in a certain statement, and I didn't know how to answer that. And so I lied that day because I knew that what was coming. But what I want you to know is that Vivian and Don, they kept showing up for me in really unique ways. They always came to Youth Sunday. They always came to Sundays where we were going to be there. They came when I gave my first sermon in that congregation, even though I was a Unitarian Universalist. And many years later, they came to my ordination. They were sitting in the front 2 rows with my mom and dad. Now, they weren't my youth advisors. They weren't people that I saw week in and week out, but they showed up for me. And that's how I knew I was loved. It was a congregation who loved their children and their youth. And that's where my call to ministry was. Not necessarily in a silo called religious education that happens over here, but in a congregation full of generations of people who show up for one another, no matter their age. So Carol, in your ministry, what have been some of the packages or the containers that in RE that were impactful, including those that have fallen away over the years?
Well, in preparation for ministry, both Emily and I studied the pioneers of our religious education process. Did you know, did Judy tell you this morning, that the first Sunday schools were created around 1790 by Universalists and Methodists to teach children who were working in the factories the other 6 days of the week? Anyway, 2 basic pillars of our religious education were Sophia Foz and John Dewey. Dewey was transformational in changing the ways of education in our country broadly. Instead of seeing children as empty bowls to be filled with knowledge, he saw education as an active process for children to engage in problem solving. He believed humans were not fully human until they were part of the larger social life, a larger unity. He taught that education and faith lead to and require public service. Now, Sophia Foz transformed Unitarian religious education, starting where the children are and engaging them in the world's religious wisdom tales. Her work benefited from the movement of higher biblical criticism, and she rejected the catechism system of questions with prescribed answers, and she built upon Dewey's philosophy of education as engagement. The Universalists pioneered graded lesson plans, acknowledging developmental levels of children at different ages. They included the modernization occurring in education, and they kept close to the Universalist professions of faith. Angus MacLean is the best known of these Universalist religious educators, and he modeled for all that the method of teaching is truly the strongest expression of its message. He taught that children learned from the way adults around them behaved and the way they treated them. Our practices have also been informed and enriched by the work of Paulo Freire, who taught about engaging the participants in a system as the experts on repairing that system, and Maria Harris, who led us to understand how the whole church is the curriculum of learning. Our religious education has always been delivered in some way by volunteers. And so it has to be packaged in a way that they can be used with ease and without full teacher education. When I began in religious education, the big thing was the Hugo Holleroth kits, boxes full of multimedia tools. There were film strips and games and art projects and readings and such. And of course, all the little pieces could get lost. These kits had strong emphasis on social issues, but very little Unitarian Universalist identity. Haunting House taught where babies come from. Decision making, freedom and responsibility, man the culture builder, human heritage, man the meaning maker, and about your sexuality, with the predecessor of our current Our Whole Lives. These kits were designed to be sold to public and private schools, as well as Unitarian Universalist congregations. They were followed by the Brotman Marshman Fields, more religiously focused and content-centered curricula, such as, why do bad things happen? And how can I know what to believe? Next came a whole set focused on UU identity, created step by step so teachers could pick up the curriculum and follow it like a cookbook. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, do this, do that. And now we live with the tapestry of faith that's designed for broad choice among a dizzying array of options and can be selected by the teacher on their home computer. Emily, what are some of the packages and containers for RE that you see as important in our time?
Well, the thing that I see again and again is that we're living in a very lonely time. We've forgotten actually how to engage in kind of deep and abiding relationships, especially across generations. I often ask people if they have at least one person that they know who they could call if they were going through a hard time. And lots of times people don't have one person. It doesn't matter what age they are, they have a hard time coming up with that person. So I am now starting to see religious education happening in containers that allow people to come together. And we're, at least where I work, we're being very strategic about how we make that happen. For instance, in the congregation I serve, we are no longer using the phrase religious education. I know. It's a little bit of a heresy. Of course, all the long-timers still use RE, but both the words religious and education are seen as old school, is what I'll say. So first we know from research that parents are really the primary educators, religious educators for children. Even amongst our I'm not religious folks, children and youth are watching their parents to see what they're doing in their own lives. And if you also think about it, if our children are coming to RE every Sunday, which, let me tell you, they're not coming every Sunday. Hello, soccer, biggest competitor on Sunday mornings. If they were coming every Sunday, we might see them for 40 hours out of the year. That's actually not a lot of time to have an impact on a child's life. So where is the time that we are going to have a faith impact on a kid's life? It's actually in their home with their parents. So we are now giving some of those containers and those kits, we're retooling them to actually have parents take them home with them. So how are you having a family meal together? Do you light the chalice? Do you say what you're grateful for? What are some of the moments where you can bring some of your faith and your faith conversations into your home that are also heard on a Sunday morning? And then how do we take those conversations and make sure that they're happening with people outside their families? So one of the things that we're trying to do is create family rituals where people outside of their family can come in and be a part of a kid's life. For instance, when you're 13 years old, 12 or 13 years old, do you have 5 adults whom your parents know and trust that you can know for the rest of your life? We're actually helping parents figure out who those people are in their lives, and lots of times those people are RE teachers on a Sunday morning that are coming into the home and sharing a little bit more of their story and how their faith has impacted them over time, so that our kids can have somebody like Vivian and Don Noblet in their lives. We're also really prioritizing relationships across generations. Now, I have to say that this is something that we're still experimenting with. We're seeing how we can do it better and better. But one of the things that I'll say as a person who grew up outside of Unitarian Universalism is that I wonder how much we can worship together. I know that that's hard when we have RE at the same time, but how much can we worship together so that when kids leave, they actually have an experience, when they leave as adults, they have an experience of what Sunday morning or Saturday afternoon, whenever you have your worship, what it actually feels like. So Carol, what do we think are the most enduring aspects of RE?
I think our systems have been and must continue to be flexible, serving the changing landscape, as Emily was describing, but holding to the solid foundations that have served us well. Our religious education has always been imbued with the belief that children are holy and precious, that they are inherently good and curious. We value lifelong spiritual growth and learning, and I've lost my place, rather than stasis, where some basics have been learned. We continue to hold that education should be active, engaging, starting where the person is and age appropriate. We continue to value children's curiosity, intellectual, emotional, personal, and we believe that they have answers within if we but provide the space for discovery. RE must be related to the world around us, based on care, compassion, service, and it needs to be relevant to the surrounding culture and times. And religious education must reflect the sustaining values and beliefs of our faith. So the whole church is an educating body for children, youth, families, and adults of all ages. We all learn from the whole church around us. The relationships with others in the community are key, from the most intense teacher-student relationships to random contacts in the hallways. A baby's cry in a church is its first prayer. The response from the community is its first experience of God. The way we respond teaches more than anything we say. Emily, our voices matter in the lives of children, but don't give up. Okay.
Well, I would say what Carol was just saying is that I think that one of the enduring aspects is that our voices do matter. I think sometimes we're so busy in our own lives that we don't know whether it matters at all, if what we're doing matters. And I want you to know that when you show up, it does matter. And I heard a lot of that in what Judy was, and what people were saying to Judy. So it's the difference between doing and being, right? So many of you said Judy would come around a corner and she'd have the look on her face and she was asking you to do something. I want to correct that and say she wasn't asking you to do anything. She was asking you to be with someone. And I think that that's the difference in what we're talking about here. She was asking you to be with someone who needs you. And in showing up for someone, you saw that it not only transformed that person, but it also transformed you. And you said it was some of the most impactful work you did. This was a real aha for me many years ago when I was first starting out in youth ministry. I read a book called Contemplative Youth Ministry. And I, at that time, was all about trying to get programs finished and making sure that everything was going to line. And what I learned from that book was it doesn't matter if the program runs to what it says in the curriculum. What matters is that people have a person in their lives. And so I changed the nature of the way that I was showing up so that I could be present. And the other thing I would say that I learned from Ibu Patel is that if we don't show up in children and youth's lives, others will. And I'm not sure that any of us want those other voices in the lives of our youth.
So Emily, what are our wishes for Montclair congregation as they conclude one era and look to the next?
So as I listened to you all say goodbye to Judy, I heard a lot of grief. It's hard to say goodbye. But I think what we all have to take into consideration is that Unitarian Universalism is an ever-evolving tradition. It is a living tradition, which means that change is going to happen all of the time, whether we like it or not. And so how do we welcome change? How do we evolve? How do we adapt, given all of the things that are happening in our world today? That is what we have to do. And I have to tell you that congregations don't really like to change. We like everything to be kind of the way we loved it or we knew it and comfortable for us. So I guess what I would tell you is that my wish for you is that in the coming time, as you welcome new people into your leadership positions, that you remember that it's okay to grieve and to let go. It's okay to experiment and adapt. It's okay to fail at those things as long as you keep learning and showing up for one another. It's kind of like that Kenny Rogers song. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Do you want to sing it with me? This is one of those experiment and adapt right here, right now. You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You guys are good. Carol?
In Judy Tomlinson, you have been served and cared for by a preacher, teacher, prophet, and pastor. What I hope for you, the congregation of Montclair, as you wish this dear, dear person farewell, that you seek out those qualities, teacher, preacher, prophet, and pastor, in your leadership, both lay and ordained. Holds relationships and community in holy covenant. Remember that children and youth and families and single adults of every age all need special care. Remember that leadership training is an important aspect of a strong congregation. Remember that partnership between staff and congregants builds healthy communities. Remember the Universalist teaching that God's love is not limited, and shower that love on your next leaders.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, I'm David Lewis. And last February, Nelia Sellers asked me if I would paint Judy's portrait. And I said I would be honored to do that. And just think, she's going to be hanging in the same room with the other guys. The other master. And it's about time, because she is the first woman minister that we've had in this church in 114 years. And it's about time. And Judy, would you come up here? So to Sue Raufer, as president, incoming president of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to present this painting to the congregation to hang in the Alliance Room, along with Dr. Weirs and Norman Fletcher and Charlie Ortman, and be there with the big guys. Thank you, Judy. It's been an honor to paint you. Hold on one second. And so she'll have something to take with her. And Rob, we had a print made of this, and you'd be able to take this with you to California and think about us once in a while.
So if you forget your What Would Judy Do bracelet, or if the Tomlinson room is busy, then you just go into the Alliance room and you'll find her.
It is it's an honor and a great joy to be able to play the part of Reverend Charles Bluestein Ortman, Minister Emeritus, in bringing greetings to Reverend Judy Tomlinson and to this congregation. My warmest greetings to you, Judy, and to the most wonderful congregation in the world on this day of appreciation and gratitude. I appreciate the opportunity to add my voice in the celebration of the meaningful, moving, and magnificent ministry that you have shared these past 17 years. I hope you all know that it was my great honor and pleasure to have served with Judy for much of her tenure with you. It is with great fondness and deep esteem that I think back on all those years and the many wonderful and sometimes challenging experiences that were part of them. Judy, you and I shared a covenant that guided us in our work for and with the congregation. In it, we promised to bring to our ministries honesty, integrity, skill, a collegial spirit, and a willingness to work hard with a sense of purpose, humor, and vision. As I consider those words now, I recognize, once again, the high expectations we held for ourselves and for each other. Thank you for helping me to do and to be my best. Thank you for bringing your best self to your ministry every single day. Thank you for bringing your joy and camaraderie, your infectious laughter, your positive energy for all of those years. Judy, as I thought about what I might want to say on the occasion of this celebration of you, your ministry, and your relationship with UUCM, I came across the prayer that I had the honor of offering at your ordination and installation back on May 12, 2001. I want to repeat a portion of it here. May we bless with all our hearts this, our new minister, Judith Ann Tomlinson. May her ministry here be guided by faith, by hope, and by love. May it be guided by wisdom and by courage. May learning nourish her ministry so that she might help to feed the curious minds and hearts of the children and all those she serves. May her ministry be served by her deep and abiding commitment to the possibilities of goodness and to the possibilities of transformation as she works to promote the world that is waiting to be born. All of those things that we hoped for on that day, the things that we prayed might be a part of your ministry, became your ministry. You have been guided by faith, hope, and love, guided by wisdom and courage. In your practice of ministry, you have never ceased to be a student of it and a teacher from it. You have faithfully fed others so very well. And you have always stayed true to your commitment to the possibilities of goodness and of transformation, true to your vision of the beloved community and to the world waiting to be born. Your work has made that community more of a reality, that visionary world closer to birthing. So this is what I want to say on this day of farewell and celebration. Thank you, Judy Tomlinson. Thank you for allowing me to be your colleague. Thank you for your being an essential, vital, and leading force in the growing ministry of UUCM. My life and the life of this beloved congregation have been so enriched, so very blessed for your having been a part of our shared journeys. To all of you here on this day of commencement, please know that you have and will continue to have my love and appreciation. And more, you have my admiration for being a congregation with an ardent passion and a devoted commitment toward the transformation of hearts, homes, community, and world. Judy has been your faithful and inspired leader in this religious quest. Celebrate her and your time together heartily today. And then, prepare yourselves, for there is history yet to be written. Get ready. A new and exciting chapter in the ongoing shared ministry of this congregation awaits your very next step. My love to you all, Charlie.
And now I want to take you back to just a few weeks ago at our congregational meeting on May 21st, 2017, where the following resolution, not so beautifully inscribed or written, Reverend Mary Thibault has rendered this in calligraphy for us and for Judy, and I'd like to read it to you. According to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, Minister Emeritus, Emerita, Policies and Procedures, the title Minister Emeritus or Minister Emerita is granted to honor long and meritorious service to a congregation where the minister has given devoted and competent ministerial leadership. In recognition and deep appreciation of the contribution that Reverend Judith A. Tomlinson has made to the growth and vitality of the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair over the last 17 years, we hereby resolve that she be granted the designation of Minister Emerita. Whereas she has so influenced virtually every area of ministry within the congregation, she has transformed the children's religious education program, and over the years, formed it into a thriving program that it is today. She spearheaded this congregation's adoption of the Harvest the Power program, the adult religious education program that grows committed members of the congregation into its leaders, and has nurtured the program's evolution over the years. She has guided the Covenant Group Ministry to provide the congregation with a framework for our spiritual growth as individuals and as a community. She has ministered to members and friends of the congregation in our joy and in our grief, and walked with us through the phases of our lives. Whereas she has represented the congregation and the values and the principles of Unitarian Universalism in the larger community, using her gentle, guiding manner to bring about transformation in our hearts, our homes, our community, and our world. Therefore, be it resolved that Reverend Judith A. Tomlinson be granted the designation of Minister Emerita, effective on the 4th of June, 2017. Be it also resolved that this designation shall be announced to the Unitarian Universalist Association, published in the UU World, and otherwise communicated to the greater Unitarian Universalist community. And this was approved on this 21st day of May, 2017, by the members of the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair.
Good afternoon. So Judy, you and I have been together since my new UU class in 2004. Charlie was on sabbatical that year and you taught it at that time. I was born and raised a Roman Catholic. Unitarian Universalism is a little different. So I was unsure as to whether I wanted to join the congregation at that time, but after our class I decided that this was where I wanted to be. We've done senior youth together. We've done board work together. We've done Harvest the Power together. And I also worked with you when you were reimagining your ministry a couple of years ago. Your courage in initiating that transition and your commitment in following it through resulted in a vibrant membership committee, the initiation of the Harvest the Power program, which is now an institution, and the strengthening of the RE program, to name a few things. What you leave behind is the greatest gift you've given us. Your ministry has benefited this congregation immeasurably. Understatement of the century. Our quiet leadership is a term that I've heard a lot to describe your ministry. Your brand of quiet leadership has its own power, its own magic, your magic. I've been privileged to witness it, and I've been inspired by it and by you. I know that magic will guide you to success and fulfillment in whatever you choose to do in the next phase of your life. I know you will touch many more lives as you've touched each and every one of ours. We can't wait to see what you do next. To me personally, you've been a mentor and inspiration, but most importantly, I count both you and Rob as close friends, and I'll miss you both. On behalf of the congregation, I want to present you with this token of our love and gratitude. Hopefully it's the right way. Yep, it is. I'm gonna drop it. It's a labyrinth. It is detachable. And there's an inscription. What lies behind you and what lies in front of you pales in comparison to what lies inside you. It's a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. With love and gratitude, the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair.
All right, I forgot to print this in large print. Judy has been there for all of us through the years. She has held us up in times of sorrow and pain and shared in our joys and celebrations. She has guided us in our journey as we grow and mature. But at the end of the day, who was there for Judy? Her husband, Rob Gordon. Many of you may not know Rob, but he is her backstage man, the one who holds her up at the end of the day after she has held all of us up. He is the one that rejuvenates her so she can continue to support us. I've gotten to know Rob over the years. One of my favorite things is to watch Rob's face while Judy is preaching. He is always so proud of her as he listens to each and every word that she speaks with love in his heart and on his face. Rob, the love and support you give to Judy is also given to us. So not only are you her backstage man, you are ours as well. So we have a little gift of appreciation.
Wow.
So, for those of you that don't know, last year Rob's book, The Backstage Man, was published. So we had this shirt made for him. We hope that you know how much we appreciate and love you. Rob, thank you for being our backstage man.
Can I just say one thing? I have to, since I'm up here.
Use the mic.
I can't be at
Yes, you can.
pulpit. I've never been in a pulpit before. It's good, I like it. I would not know Judy and her wonderful family, who is represented here by her sister, Mary, and her husband, Phil. I wouldn't know any of you, probably, if it wasn't for my cousin and his wife, Miriam, who introduced Judy and I 14 years ago. And they're here today, and I just want to thank them publicly for bringing us together. Thank you.
For those of you that are visiting this afternoon, I'm Justin Osterman, and for the past 22 months, it's been my privilege to serve as the interim senior minister of this congregation alongside Judy. And I have 2 more months to serve here. It's in my capacity as the interim senior minister that is my pleasure to introduce to you our honoree this afternoon, Reverend Judy Tomlinson. Now, I want to say you have been wonderfully patient up until this point, waiting to hear her speak. And I have no intention of making you wait much longer. I first met Judy Tomlinson 17 years ago when she came to New Jersey to interview for the position at this congregation. At the time, I was interviewing up the road in Bergen County to be a minister there. The second time I met Judy Tomlinson, she was serving here in Montclair, and I was serving the Central Unitarian Church in Paramus. We were members of the same ministerial chapter and cluster for 8 years. And for 5 years, we were members of the Northern Reflecting Pool, which is a small spiritual support group for UU ministers in northern New Jersey. And I got to know Judy extremely well through that group. She is gracious, kind, compassionate, considerate, committed, generous, gentle, strong, smart, creative, reliable, humble, thoughtful, spiritual, and self-aware. She's modest and appears quiet and reserved at first glance, but she has a keen sense of humor and an infectious laugh. And she's got an adventurous bent as well. Not everyone abandons her or himself completely to the joy of dancing. And still fewer have the style and confidence to sport a bright red brimmed hat. Judy is a person of depth and substance. When I considered where I wanted to serve as an interim minister in 2015, there were many aspects of the UU congregation at Montclair that made it attractive to me, but as Terry said earlier, serving with Judy really sealed the deal for me. The opportunity to work with a colleague of such ability, dedication, and personal integrity does not come around every day. It was not an opportunity I wanted to pass on. And these past 2 years have only made us closer. My appreciation has turned to admiration. My regard has settled into deep respect. My enjoyment has turned to abiding affection. Judy has spent the last 34 years serving Unitarian Universalism as a religious educator. Exactly half of that career, 17 years, was spent serving this congregation as an ordained minister. Some of the youngest children that Judy taught when she first became the minister of religious education here just graduated from college this spring. Intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally, Judy Tomlinson made an impression on each one of those lives and countless more. And you think about it. The children that came through this religious education program impacted by Judy's ministry took their shaped lives into classrooms in Montclair, into colleges around the country. They'll take it into the workplace. They'll take it into the public marketplace of ideas. They will take it into their democratic lives. They will take it into their family lives. They'll take it into their marriages. They'll take it into their parenthood. They will pass it down to children and generations of children, students, parents, teachers, persons who never stepped foot in this sanctuary have and will be changed by Judy's service. I certainly have been. Generations to come will bear the imprint of her ministry, even though they may never know her name. That strikes me as a highly effective and well-spent life, to which I can only quote the scripture, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Friends, I give to you Reverend Judith Ann Tomlinson.
The poet May Sarton wrote, "Did someone say there would be an end? An end? Oh, an end to love and mourning? What has once been so interwoven cannot be raveled, nor the gift ungiven. What has been plaited cannot be unplaited. Only the strands grow richer." I am overwhelmed today by your demonstration of love for me. It has touched me so powerfully. I hope that you have felt my love for you. I'm overwhelmed by your outpouring. There are so many memories to recount, and so many of them have been shared by you today, spoken aloud. Thank you for the richness of this life that you have made possible, for all that you have contributed to this congregation. Whatever has been said about me today has been multiplied 350 times by your involvement, your shared ministry, your presence in this congregation. We made a covenant 17 years ago. It has been fulfilled to the best of both of our abilities, and that is saying something quite grand. For any times I have fallen short, for no life is lived in perfection, I hope you will forgive me, and I you. The covenant, having been fulfilled, is now released. Even though we say goodbye, we will always be connected through spirit and love. I will join the UU congregation in Long Beach, California, and when I light my chalice, I will be thinking of you and sending you my prayers. Every ending is a new beginning. You have already opened your minds and hearts to your new ministers. You have such a bright future ahead of you. I pray that you fully embrace that and give it everything that you have. Cherish this place. Cherish each other. My bags are almost packed and ready for me to take on a new life. I came here as Minister of Religious Education. I thought I would be leaving that identity behind, but you have given me a new identity. Minister Emerita. Carl Sandburg wrote, "Gather the stars if you wish it so. Gather the songs and keep them. Gather the faces of children, women, and men. Gather for the keeping years and years. And then loosen your hands, let go and say goodbye. Let the stars go and the songs too. Let the faces and the years go. Loosen your hands and say goodbye. Godspeed."